Stop the car!
Dropping. We need to intubate.
Go!
Charging to 300. Stand back. Clear.
She made it through. She's awake and she wants to see you.
Thank God.
Stop the car. The words exploded from Kunle's mouth as his black SUV sped through the rain-soaked streets. His driver's foot hovered over the brake, confused. No, keep driving, Mary shouted from beside him, her perfectly manicured hand gripping her phone. We're already late, Kunle. I have a $100,000 deal waiting. We can't... I said stop. The tires screamed against the wet pavement as the SUV jerked to a halt. Before Mary could say another word, Kunle threw open his door and ran into the rain. His expensive shoes splashed through muddy puddles as he raced towards something that had caught his eye. A body. A woman, lying face down in the gutter like a piece of garbage someone had thrown away. Mary watched from inside the dry, warm car, her mouth open in disbelief. Is he serious right now? She looked at the driver, and he just shrugged, as confused as she was. Kunle reached the woman and dropped to his knees in the filthy water. Rain poured down his face as he gently turned her over. She was old, her clothes were rags. Her face was covered in mud and blood. She wasn't moving. He pressed 2 fingers to her neck, searching for a pulse. There. Weak, but there. He scooped her fragile body into his arms and carried her back to the SUV. Mary's eyes went wide with horror as he approached. Kunle, what are you doing? You can't just... He yanked open the door. Move over. Mary pressed herself against the far window as Kunle carefully placed the unconscious woman on the leather seat between them. Mud and rainwater immediately soaked into the expensive upholstery. The smell of the streets filled the car. Drive to the nearest hospital, Kunle commanded. Now. The driver didn't hesitate this time. He hit the gas. Mary couldn't believe what was happening. Do you have any idea what you've just done? She gestured wildly at the unconscious woman. My appointment. My deal. You just threw away $100,000 for some random beggar from the street. Kunle didn't look at her. His hands were checking the woman's breathing, making sure she was still alive. She's not random. She's a human being. Oh, please. Mary's voice dripped with sarcasm. So what? You're going to save every homeless person in Lagos now? You're going to rescue the whole world? Kunle finally turned to face his fiancée. His eyes were cold. Right now, I'm saving this one. Is that a problem? Mary opened her mouth to argue but stopped. She'd never seen this look on Kunle's face before. She turned away and stared out the window, her jaw tight with anger. Her phone buzzed with messages from her business partners. She ignored them all. The hospital came into view. The driver pulled up to the emergency entrance, and within seconds, nurses and doctors surrounded the SUV. They lifted the woman onto a stretcher and rushed her inside. Kunle followed, his clothes dripping wet, his shoes ruined. Mary stayed in the car for a moment, fuming. Then she grabbed her designer bag and followed, her heels clicking angrily on the hospital floor. Hours passed. Kunle paced back and forth in the waiting room like a caged animal. His phone rang multiple times. He ignored it. Mary sat in the corner, arms crossed, staring at nothing. She'd already sent angry texts to her business partners, cancelling the meeting. The deal was gone. $100,000. He vanished because her fiancé had a sudden attack of conscience. Finally, a doctor appeared. She's stable. She's asking for whoever brought her in. Kunle's heart pounded as he walked toward the hospital room. He didn't know why he felt so anxious. He'd just done a good deed. Saved a life. That was it. Nothing more. But when he pushed open that door and saw the woman's face, clean now, no longer covered in mud, his entire world stopped. No, it can't be. The woman's eyes met his, and tears immediately started rolling down her cheeks. Kunle. Her voice was barely a whisper. My son. You You saved me." Kunle felt his legs go weak. He grabbed the edge of the hospital bed to steady himself. His mouth opened, but no words came out. His mind was spinning, crashing, breaking apart, because he knew this woman, he knew that face. Even aged by suffering and years of pain, he knew it. "Mama? Mama Dorcas?" She nodded, tears streaming faster now. "Yes. Yes, it's me." Kunle stumbled backward. His back hit the wall. He couldn't breathe. The room was spinning. How? How is this possible? What happened to you? Why were you on the streets? Why were you… He couldn't finish. The words died in his throat because the answer was already forming in his mind, and it was too horrible to accept. Mama Dorcas looked at him with eyes that held years of pain. "After my daughter died," she said quietly, "I lost everything. My home, my hope, everything." Kunle felt like someone had reached into his chest and torn out his heart. "Your daughter. Dorcas." His voice cracked on her name. Mama Dorcas nodded. She died giving birth, alone, because the father of her child abandoned her, and because he said the baby wasn't his, because he was too busy becoming successful to care about the woman who made that success possible. Every word was a knife, every sentence twisted deeper. Kunle slid down the wall until he was sitting on the floor, his hands covering his face. No. No, no, no. Mama Dorcas watched him, her expression unreadable. Years of anger and grief wrestled with the impossible reality that this man, the one who destroyed her daughter, had just saved her life. Outside the room, Mary stood frozen in the doorway. She'd heard everything. Her anger from earlier had completely vanished, replaced by shock and growing horror. She looked at Kunle, broken on the floor, and at the old woman in the bed, and slowly the pieces began to come together. Kunle finally looked up at Mama Dorcas, his face wet with tears. "I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I didn't know. I didn't know she died. I didn't know you were…" Words failed him again. Because what could he possibly say? What words could undo what he'd done? What apology could bring back the dead? Mama Dorcas lay back against the hospital pillows, her body exhausted, but her mind very much awake. She looked at Kunle sitting on the floor, broken and crying, and something inside her chest tightened. This was the man who destroyed her daughter, the man who took everything from her family, and yet this same man had just pulled her from the gutter and saved her life. "Life is strange," she whispered, "very strange." Kunle wiped his face with his hands, but the tears kept coming. He stood up slowly, his legs shaking. "Please," he said, his voice raw, "please tell me what happened. Tell me everything. I need to know." Mama Dorcas closed her eyes. The memories were painful, like reopening old wounds that had never properly healed. But maybe it was time. Maybe this man needed to hear what his choices had cost. "After you left my Dorcas," she began, her voice quiet but steady, "she tried to reach you. She called your phone every day for weeks. You never answered. She sent messages. You blocked her number. She even came to your office once when you were just starting to make money. Your security threw her out." Kunle's face crumpled with fresh pain. "I remember," he whispered. "I told them she was nobody, that she was just some crazy woman. She was carrying your child," Mama Dorcas said, her voice harder now, "your son. And she was alone, completely alone. I tried to help her, but I was just a petty trader selling vegetables in the market. I didn't have money for a good hospital or proper care. When the labor started, there were complications. She bled too much. The small clinic we took her to couldn't save her." Kunle covered his mouth with his hand, trying to hold back a sob. "She called your name," Mama Dorcas continued, staring at the ceiling as if she could see it all happening again. "Even as she was dying, she called for you. She said, 'Tell Kunle I forgive him. Tell him to take care of our baby.' Those were her last words." The room fell silent except for the sound of Kunle's broken breathing. Mary, still standing in the doorway, had tears running down her own face now. She'd never seen Kunle like this. She'd never imagined he had this kind of past. "And the baby?" Kunle finally asked, his voice barely audible. Where is my son?" Mama Dorcas looked at him, and for the first time something like anger flashed in her eyes. "I tried to keep him. I tried so hard." But I was 60 years old, grieving my only child, and I had no money. The landlord threw me out when I couldn't pay rent. I ended up on the streets with a newborn baby. Kunle felt his heart shattering into smaller and smaller pieces. I had to make a choice, Mama Dorcas said, her voice breaking now. Keep him and watch him suffer with me on the streets, or give him a chance at a better life. So I took him to an orphanage. A good one. I made sure of that. And then I just gave up. What was the point of living? My daughter was gone. My grandson was gone. I had nothing left. She looked directly at Kunle. That's how I ended up where you found me today. 5 years on the streets, begging, sleeping in abandoned buildings. Being kicked and beaten by people like those boys who threw me in the rain today. That's what happened to me after you destroyed my daughter. If you're watching this and your heart is breaking like mine, please hit that subscribe button. Drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. These stories need to be heard. These lessons need to be learned. Don't let this message pass you by. Mary couldn't take it anymore. She walked into the room and sat down in the chair beside the bed. I'm so sorry, she said to Mama Dorcas. I'm so sorry for what happened to you. Mama Dorcas looked at her surprised. And who are you? I'm Kunle's fiancée. Mary's voice was small, ashamed. An hour ago, I was angry at him for stopping to help you. I was angry that he ruined my business meeting. I thought $100,000 was more important than a human life. She looked down at her hands. I was wrong. So wrong. Kunle finally found the strength to move. He walked to the side of the bed and fell to his knees. Mama Dorcas, I can't undo what I did. I can't bring Dorcas back. I can't give you back those 5 years of suffering. But please let me try to make things right. Let me help you. Let me find our son. What makes you think you deserve that chance? Mama Dorcas cut him off, her voice sharp. What makes you think you have the right to play father now, after all these years? Kunle had no answer. She was right. He had no right, no claim, no excuse. But then Mama Dorcas's expression softened slightly. However, she said quietly, my daughter's last wish was that you take care of your son. And despite everything you did, despite all the pain you caused, she still loved you. Even at the end, she loved you. Fresh tears poured down Kunle's face. I didn't deserve her, he choked out. I didn't deserve her love. I was a fool. A selfish, ungrateful fool. Yes, Mama Dorcas agreed. You were. The question is, what kind of man are you now? Kunle looked up at her, his eyes red and swollen. I don't know. But I want to be the man Dorcas believed I could be. The man she saw in me when I had nothing. Before the money changed me, before I forgot where I came from. Mary reached out and took Kunle's hand. I'll help, she said firmly. Whatever it takes to make this right, I'll help you. Mama Dorcas studied them both for a long moment. The room was heavy with emotion, with years of pain and regret and lost chances. Finally, she spoke. At the orphanage where I left the baby is called New Hope Children's Home. It's on the other side of the city. I visit sometimes when I can. I watch him from outside the gate. He's 9 years old now, smart, beautiful. He has his mother's eyes. Kunle's hands trembled as he listened. 9 years old. He had a 9-year-old son he'd never met, never held, never even knew existed until this moment. What's his name? He whispered. Mama Dorcas's eyes filled with fresh tears. Dorcas Jr. I named him after his mother, so her name would live on, even though she couldn't. The weight of those words crushed Kunle. He buried his face in his hands and wept like a child. Mary held on to him, her own tears falling freely now. The hospital room was filled with the sound of grief, of regret, of years of pain finally breaking open. A nurse knocked softly and entered. I'm sorry, but visiting hours are ending soon. The patient needs rest. Kunle stood up, wiping his face. I'll come back tomorrow, first thing in the morning, and we'll go together to see him. To see our son. Mama Dorcas nodded slowly. But don't expect him to welcome you with open arms, Kunle. That boy asks about his father sometimes. He wants to know why his daddy left him. What am I supposed to tell him? Tell him the truth, Kunle said, his voice firm despite the pain. Tell him his father was a coward, a selfish man who threw away the most precious things in his life for money and status. But also tell him that his father wants to change, that he wants to be better. "We'll see," Mama Dorcas said quietly. "We'll see if your actions match your words." Kunle and Mary left the hospital in silence. The rain had stopped, but the night air was cold and heavy. They got back into the SUV and the driver started the engine. But Kunle didn't give him directions. He just sat there, staring at nothing. "Take us home," Mary finally said softly. The drive back to Kunle's mansion felt like the longest journey of his life. Every street they passed reminded him of Mama Dorcas lying in the gutter. Every person they saw on the sidewalk made him wonder how many other lives he'd ignored while building his empire. The city he thought he knew suddenly looked different. Darker, more broken. When they arrived at his massive house with its tall gates and manicured gardens and imported furniture, Kunle felt sick. This house could fit 20 families. This house cost more money than most people would see in their entire lives. And he'd bought it without thinking twice, while the mother of the woman who made him successful was sleeping on the streets. Mary followed him inside. The house was quiet, empty. Their footsteps echoed on the marble floors. Kunle walked to the large dining table and sat down, his head in his hands. Mary stood nearby, not sure what to say or do. Finally, Kunle spoke. "Do you want to know how I met Dorcas?" Mary nodded and sat down across from him. "Yes, tell me everything." Kunle took a deep breath. "It was at NYSC camp. I was 23 years old, fresh out of university, and completely broke. My family was poor. I had nothing, no connections, no money, no prospects. I was just another struggling graduate, hoping to find some kind of future." He paused, remembering. Then I met her. His voice softened when he said her name. Dorcas was different from everyone else at that camp. She was smart, confident, full of life. She came from a humble background too, but she had this fire in her eyes. She believed she could make something of herself, and more importantly, she believed I could too. Mary listened quietly, seeing a side of Kunle she'd never known existed. She was studying computer science, and she was brilliant at it. She saw that the future was in technology, in the internet, in digital business. This was years ago, when most people in Nigeria didn't even understand what tech entrepreneurship meant. But Dorcas understood. And she taught me everything she knew. Kunle's voice cracked. We would stay up late at night, planning, dreaming. She showed me how to code, how to build websites, how to think like an entrepreneur. She introduced me to people she knew, people who could help. She used her own small savings to help me buy my first laptop. Everything I am today, everything I have, started with her. "And you fell in love?" Mary asked gently. Kunle nodded. "How could I not? She was beautiful, intelligent, kind, and she saw something in me that I didn't even see in myself. We started dating. We made plans for our future together. We were going to build a tech company together, change the world together. So what happened?" Mary's voice was barely a whisper. "What changed?" Kunle's face hardened. "I changed. My first business deal was successful. I made my first £1,000,000. Then another. Then another. The money started flowing. People started recognizing my name. I was invited to important events, exclusive parties. I met wealthy people, influential people, and suddenly Dorcas seemed small. Mary's heart sank as she listened. She still dressed simply. She still lived in a small apartment. She still took public transport everywhere. And I started feeling ashamed to be seen with her. I started thinking she would hold me back, that she wasn't sophisticated enough for the circles I was entering. Kunle's voice was thick with self-hatred now. When she told me she was pregnant, I panicked. I thought a baby would ruin everything I was building. I thought people would see me as just another irresponsible young man who got his girlfriend pregnant. So I denied it. I told her the baby wasn't mine. I accused her of trying to trap me. I said terrible things to her, things I can never take back. Mary reached across the table and held his hand. He gripped it tightly, as if it was the only thing keeping him from falling apart completely. "She begged me," Kunle continued, tears streaming down his face again. "She got on her knees and begged me not to abandon her. She reminded me of everything we'd been through together, everything she'd done for me. But I walked away. I blocked her number. I told my security never to let her near me again. I erased her from my life like she meant nothing. Mary squeezed Kunle's hand tighter. She could see the pain eating him alive from the inside, but she needed to hear it all. She needed to understand the full weight of what he'd done. "What happened after that?" she asked quietly. Kunle stared at the table, his voice hollow. "I threw myself into work. I told myself I'd made the right choice, that I needed to focus on building my empire. Within 2 years, I became a millionaire. Within 5 years, a billionaire. And I was featured in magazines. I won awards. People called me a genius, a self-made man." He laughed bitterly. "Self-made, that's the biggest lie I ever told. I wasn't self-made. Dorcas made me. She gave me the knowledge, the connections, the confidence, but I took all the credit. I rewrote my own history, told everyone I did it all alone. I never mentioned her name, not once." "And you never tried to find out what happened to her?" Mary asked, though she already knew the answer. Kunle's voice broke. "I convinced myself she was fine, that she'd moved on with her life, that she probably found someone better. I buried the guilt so deep that I almost forgot about her. Almost." He looked up at Mary, his eyes red and swollen. "But sometimes, late at night, I would remember her smile, the way she believed in me. And I would feel this pain in my chest, this emptiness. But I pushed it away. I always pushed it away." The room fell silent. The weight of Kunle's confession hung in the air like a heavy fog. Mary pulled her hand back and stood up. She walked to the large window that overlooked the city lights. Kunle watched her, afraid of what she might say. "When I met you," Mary finally spoke, still facing the window, "I thought you were perfect. Successful, charming, generous. You donated to charities. You helped young entrepreneurs. Everyone said you were a good man." Kunle felt his stomach twist. "I'm not," he whispered. "I'm not a good man." Mary turned to face him. "No, you're not. You're a man who took everything from the woman who loved you and gave her nothing in return. You're a man who let his child grow up in an orphanage while you lived in a mansion. You're a man who let the woman who made you successful beg on the streets for 5 years." Each word was like a hammer blow. Kunle couldn't argue. Every accusation was true. But Mary continued, her voice softer now. "You're also the man who stopped the car today. You're the man who ran into the rain to save someone everyone else ignored. You're the man sitting here now, broken and crying, finally facing what you've done." She walked back to the table and sat down. "The question is, Kunle, what are you going to do now? Because saying sorry isn't enough. Crying isn't enough. You need to do something real." Kunle looked at her with desperate eyes. "I'll do anything, whatever it takes. I'll find my son. I'll take care of Mama Dorcas. I'll make sure she never suffers again. I'll spend the rest of my life trying to make this right." Mary nodded slowly. "Then we start tomorrow. First thing in the morning, we go back to that hospital. We take Mama Dorcas somewhere safe, somewhere comfortable. Then we go to that orphanage and meet your son." "What if he hates me?" Kunle's voice was small, afraid. "What if he doesn't want anything to do with me?" "Then you'll earn his trust," Mary said firmly. "However long it takes, you owe him that much. If this story is touching your heart, if you're learning something from Kunle's mistakes, please don't just watch and leave. Hit that subscribe button right now. Leave a comment telling us where you're watching from and what you think about this story. These lessons could change someone's life. Don't keep them to yourself." That night, Kunle couldn't sleep. He lay in his king-sized bed, in his air-conditioned bedroom, surrounded by luxury, and all he could think about was Mama Dorcas lying in that gutter. He thought about Dorcas dying alone, calling his name with her last breath. He thought about a 9-year-old boy growing up in an orphanage, asking about a father who abandoned him. At 3 in the morning, he got up and went to his study. He opened his laptop and searched for New Hope Children's Home. Their website was simple, clearly running on a tight budget. They had photos of the children, smiling despite their circumstances. Kunle scrolled through the images, his heart pounding, wondering if any of these faces belonged to his son. Then he saw him. A boy with deep brown eyes and a shy smile. The caption read, Dorcas Jr., age 9, loves mathematics and football, and dreams of becoming an engineer. Kunle stared at the photo for a long time. The boy looked like his mother. That same intelligent gaze, that same gentle expression. Tears blurred Kunle's vision as he reached out and touched the screen, as if he could somehow connect with this child through the glass. I'm so sorry, he whispered to the image. I'm so sorry, my son. He spent the rest of the night reading everything he could find about the orphanage. It was struggling financially. The building needed repairs. They were short on staff. Many children were waiting for sponsors or adoptive families. Kunle's mind started working, forming plans. Money couldn't fix what he'd broken, but it could help. It could make things better. When the sun finally rose, Kunle was already dressed and ready. Mary found him in the living room, pacing back and forth. She'd barely slept either, her mind full of everything she'd learned the night before. Are you ready? She asked. Kunle shook his head. Number. I'll never be ready for this. But I have to do it anyway. They drove to the hospital in silence. The city was waking up around them. People heading to work, students going to school, street vendors setting up their stalls. Normal people living normal lives, unaware that Kunle's entire world had been turned upside down. When they reached Mama Dorcas's room, she was awake, sitting up in bed, looking stronger than the night before. A nurse was checking her vital signs. How are you feeling? Kunle asked gently. Mama Dorcas looked at him with tired eyes. My body is healing. My heart, I don't know if it ever will. Kunle pulled up a chair and sat beside her bed. I know I can't heal your heart, Mama. I know I'm the one who broke it in the first place. But please, let me try to make your life better. Let me get you out of those streets forever. Mama Dorcas studied his face carefully. You think money can fix everything? You think because you're rich now, you can just buy forgiveness? No, Kunle said quietly. I don't think that at all. I know I can't buy back the years you lost. I can't bring Dorcas back. But I can make sure you never sleep in the rain again. I can make sure you have food, shelter, medical care. I can give you dignity again. Mama Dorcas was silent for a moment, then she nodded slowly. I'm too tired to fight anymore, Kunle. Too tired to be proud. If you're offering help, I'll take it. Not for you. For myself, because I deserve better than dying in a gutter. You do. Mary spoke up from the corner of the room. You deserve so much better. The doctor came in shortly after and said Mama Dorcas could be discharged later that day. Kunle immediately made arrangements. He called his assistant and told her to prepare the guest house on his property. He wanted it fully furnished, fully stocked with food, clothes, everything Mama Dorcas might need. Then came the hard part. Are you ready to go see him? Kunle asked Mama Dorcas. Are you ready to go see Dorcas Jr.? Mama Dorcas's eyes filled with tears. I visit him every month. I stand outside the orphanage gate and watch him play. But I never go in. I never let him see me. What kind of grandmother does that make me? You were doing the best you could, Mary said gently. You were surviving. By afternoon, Mama Dorcas was discharged. Kunle had bought her new clothes, uncomfortable ones that actually fit. She looked different already, clean, cared for, almost like a different person. But the sadness in her eyes remained. They drove across the city to New Hope Children's Home. The building was old and needed painting. The playground equipment was rusty, but the yard was clean and Kunle could hear children's laughter coming from inside. It was a sound that both warmed and broke his heart at the same time. Mama Dorcas gripped the car door handle, suddenly afraid. What if this is a mistake? What if seeing us hurts him more than helps him? We won't know until we try, Kunle said, though his own hands were shaking. They walked to the entrance together. A middle-aged woman answered the door. She wore a simple dress and had kind eyes that had seen too much sadness. She was the director of the orphanage. Mama Dorcas, the woman said with surprise. You came inside this time. Yes, Sister Grace, Mama Dorcas replied softly. This is Kunle. He's Dorcas Jr.'s father. Sister Grace's eyes widened. She looked Kunle up and down, taking in his expensive clothes, his watch, his whole appearance. Then she looked at Mama Dorcas, confused. After all these years? After all these years, Kunle confirmed, his voice heavy with shame. Sister Grace stepped aside to let them in. The orphanage was clean but worn. The walls needed fresh paint. The furniture was old and mismatched. Children's drawings covered the walls. Kunle counted about 15 children in the common room, ranging from toddlers to teenagers. They all looked up when the visitors entered. "He's in the study room," Sister Grace said quietly. "He spends most of his free time there, reading or doing math problems. He's brilliant, that one. Too smart for his own good sometimes." She led them down a narrow hallway to a small room lined with old bookshelves. And there, sitting at a desk with a mathematics textbook open in front of him, was Dorcas Jr. Kunle's breath caught in his throat. The photo hadn't prepared him for this moment. The boy was beautiful. He had his mother's eyes, her nose, her thoughtful expression. But he also had features that Kunle recognized from his own childhood photos. This was his son. His flesh and blood, a whole person who existed in the world, and Kunle had known nothing about him. "Junior," Sister Grace said gently, "you have visitors." The boy looked up, and his eyes immediately found Mama Dorcas. "Grandma." He jumped up from his chair, excited. "You came inside. You never come inside." He ran to her and hugged her waist. Mama Dorcas held him tight, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, my child. I came inside today." Junior pulled back and looked at Kunle and Mary curiously. "Who are they?" The room fell silent. Sister Grace stepped back, giving them space. Mama Dorcas knelt down to Junior's level, her hands on his shoulders. "Junior, this is Kunle. He's your father." The boy's face went blank. He stared at Kunle like he was looking at a stranger. Which, Kunle realized painfully, he was. After a long moment, Junior spoke, his voice small and confused. "My father. But you said my father was gone. You said he couldn't be here." "I was wrong," Mama Dorcas said, her voice breaking. "He's here now. He wants to meet you." Junior looked at Kunle again, and this time his expression changed, and his small face hardened with an emotion no 9-year-old should have to feel. Anger. "Where were you?" Junior asked, his voice shaking. "Where were you when I was born? Where were you on my birthdays? Where were you when the other kids got adopted and I stayed here alone?" Each question was a knife to Kunle's heart. He knelt down too, making himself level with his son. "I was nowhere," he said honestly. "I wasn't there because I was a coward. I ran away when your mother needed me most. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "Sorry doesn't give me back 9 years," Junior said, and the wisdom in those words was devastating. If you're feeling what I'm feeling right now, if this story is making you think about the people you've taken for granted, don't just watch in silence. Subscribe to this channel, comment below, share this story. Someone needs to hear this message today. Junior turned away from Kunle and went back to his desk. "I have homework to finish," he said coldly. Kunle stayed on his knees, watching his son's small back turned against him. The rejection hurt more than anything he'd ever felt. But he knew he deserved it. He had no right to expect love from a child he'd abandoned. "Junior," Mary spoke softly, stepping forward, "my name is Mary. I know you don't know me either, and I know you're angry. You have every right to be angry. But your father came here today because he wants to be in your life now. If you'll let him." Junior didn't turn around. "Why should I let him? He didn't want me before." "Why does he want me now?" "Because I was stupid before," Kunle said, his voice thick with emotion. "And because I thought money and success were more important than family. Because I was selfish and blind and wrong about everything that mattered. But finding your grandmother yesterday changed me. Seeing what my choices did to the people I should have protected, it broke something inside me." Junior finally turned around, his young face streaked with tears he was trying to hide. "You found Grandma? Where was she?" Kunle exchanged a glance with Mama Dorcas. She nodded, giving him permission to tell the truth. "She was on the street. She'd been living on the street for 5 years, homeless, begging for food. And I almost drove past her. I almost left her there to die." Junior's eyes went wide with horror. He looked at his grandmother. "Grandma, is that true?" Mama Dorcas nodded, tears flowing freely now. "Yes, my child, it's true. But your father saved me. He stopped his car and took me to the hospital. If not for him, I would be dead." Junior looked confused now, torn between anger and gratitude. His small fists clenched and unclenched at his sides. He walked over to his grandmother and hugged her again. "Why didn't you tell me? Why didn't you ask for help?" "Because I was ashamed," Mama Dorcas whispered. "I didn't want you to see me like that. I wanted you to remember me as strong, not as a beggar." Sister Grace, who had been standing quietly by the door, cleared her throat. "Junior, why don't you show your father and his friend around the orphanage? I need to speak with Mama Dorcas for a moment." Junior hesitated, then nodded slowly. He walked past Kunle without looking at him and headed toward the door. Kunle and Mary followed him into the hallway. "And this is where we sleep," Junior said flatly, pointing to a large room with bunk beds. 12 boys share this room. I sleep on that bed, the top one in the corner." Kunle looked at the cramped space, the thin mattresses, the single small window. His son slept here while Kunle had a mansion with 8 bedrooms. The guilt was crushing. "This is the kitchen," Junior continued, leading them to a small, outdated cooking area. "Sister Grace cooks for all of us. Sometimes we don't have enough food, so we eat smaller portions. But we don't complain. Other orphanages have it worse." Mary's hand went to her mouth. She looked at Kunle, and he could see his own shame reflected in her eyes. "And this is the playground," Junior said, pushing open a back door. "The equipment is old, but we make it work. I like to play football here with my friends." They stepped outside into a dusty yard. A few children were kicking a worn-out football around. The goals were made from old sticks and rope, but the children were laughing, happy despite everything. "You like football?" Kunle asked, trying to make conversation. "Yes," Junior said simply. "I'm the fastest runner here. I want to be a professional footballer when I grow up. Or maybe an engineer. I haven't decided yet." "You can be both," Kunle said. "You can be anything you want." Junior looked at him directly for the first time. "Can I? Can I really? Because right now, I'm just an orphan. Nobody adopts 9-year-old boys. They want babies. So I'll probably stay here until I'm 18. Then I'll be sent out into the world with nothing." The words hit Kunle like a physical blow. "That's not going to happen," he said firmly. "I'm going to take care of you now. You're not going to grow up in this orphanage. You're going to come home with me." Junior's expression hardened again. "This is my home. These are my friends. You can't just show up after 9 years and take me away from everything I know." "I'm not trying to take you away," Kunle said desperately. "I'm trying to give you a better life. A real family." "A real family." Junior's voice rose. "A real family doesn't abandon their children. A real family doesn't let their grandmother beg on the streets. You don't know anything about family." The boy's words echoed across the playground. The other children stopped playing and stared. Mary put a hand on Kunle's shoulder, trying to comfort him, but he barely felt it. "You're right," Kunle said, his voice breaking. "You're absolutely right. I don't know anything about family. But I want to learn. I want to be your father if you'll teach me how." Junior wiped his eyes roughly with the back of his hand. "I don't need a father. I've managed fine without one for 9 years. I'll manage fine for 9 more." He turned and ran back inside the building, leaving Kunle standing alone in the dusty playground. Mary wrapped her arms around him as he finally broke down completely. His shoulders shook with sobs. All his money, all his success, all his power meant nothing in this moment. He couldn't buy his son's forgiveness. He couldn't purchase back the lost years. Inside the building, Sister Grace and Mama Dorcas watched through the window. "This won't be easy," Sister Grace said quietly. "That boy has built walls around his heart to protect himself. Breaking through them will take time." "Does he have time?" Mama Dorcas asked. "And does Kunle have time to prove himself?" Sister Grace smiled sadly. "That depends on whether his guilt is temporary or if his change is real. Only time will tell." Later that evening, Kunle sat in Sister Grace's small office while Junior remained in the study room, refusing to see him again. The rejection burned deeper than any business failure Kunle had ever experienced. Mary sat beside him, her hand in his, while Mama Dorcas stared out the window at the children playing in the fading sunlight. "He needs time," Sister Grace said gently, pouring tea into chipped cups. "You can't expect a child to forgive 9 years of absence in one afternoon. He's been hurt, abandoned, forgotten. Those wounds don't heal quickly." "I don't want him to forget what I did," Kunle said, his voice raw. "I want him to understand that I'm different now, that I'll never leave him again." "Then show him," Sister Grace replied. "Words mean nothing to a child who's been lied to by life itself. Action is the only language he'll understand." Kunle looked up at her. "What can I do? He won't even talk to me." "Start by helping this place," Mama Dorcas said suddenly, turning from the window. "You want to prove you've changed? Then change something that matters. Look around you, Kunle. Look at these children. They sleep in crowded rooms. They eat small portions because there's not enough food. The roof leaks when it rains. The school books are torn and outdated. You have the power to fix all of this." Sister Grace's eyes widened. "We don't want charity out of guilt, Mr. Kunle." "It's not charity," Kunle said, standing up suddenly, an idea forming in his mind. "It's responsibility. My son lives here. These children are his family. If I can't take care of him directly yet, at least I can take care of his home." He pulled out his phone and started making calls. Within an hour, he had contractors lined up to repair the building. He arranged for new beds, new books, new kitchen equipment. He set up a trust fund that would provide monthly support for the orphanage forever. He wasn't doing it for praise or recognition. He was doing it because for the first time in years, he saw clearly what mattered. Mary watched him work, and something shifted in her heart. This was the man she'd agreed to marry, but this was the first time she was seeing his true character emerge from beneath the layers of wealth and status. She realized that the crisis with Mama Dorcas hadn't just changed Kunle. It was changing her too. As the sun set completely, Sister Grace walked them to the door. Junior was watching from the study room window. Kunle looked up, and their eyes met for just a moment before the boy looked away. "Can I come back tomorrow?" Kunle asked Sister Grace. "You can come back whenever you want," she replied. "But remember, healing takes time. Don't rush it." That night, Mama Dorcas moved into the guest house on Kunle's property. It was small but beautiful, with everything she could possibly need. When she walked in and saw the comfortable bed, the stocked kitchen, the clean bathroom, she broke down crying. For 5 years, she'd slept on concrete and cardboard. Now she had a real home again. Kunle watched her from the doorway, his heart both breaking and healing at the same time. "I'm going to find the people who hurt you," he said quietly. "Those boys who threw you in the rain. They need to answer for what they did." Mama Dorcas shook her head. "Let them be, Kunle. Revenge won't heal anything. Those boys are products of their own pain and abandonment, just like you were once a product of your own selfishness. People can change if they're given the chance." Her wisdom humbled him. Even after everything, she chose grace over bitterness. "How do you do it?" he asked. "How do you forgive?" "I haven't forgiven you yet," she said honestly. "But I'm trying. Every day, I'm trying. Because holding on to hate only poisons the person carrying it. My daughter wouldn't want me to live the rest of my life consumed by anger." In their bedroom that night, Mary couldn't sleep. She kept thinking about Junior's face, about the orphanage, about Mama Dorcas's years on the street. Finally, she turned to Kunle. "I need to tell you something." Or he rolled over to face her. "What is it?" "When you stopped the car yesterday, when you ran into the rain to help that woman, I was so angry. I thought you were being foolish, throwing away my important meeting for a stranger. But now I realize that moment saved both of you. It saved her life, and it saved your soul." Kunle reached for her hand. "It saved me too," Mary admitted. "I've been so focused on money and success and status, just like you were. But watching you face your past, seeing you broken and humble and desperate to make things right, it showed me what really matters." "What are we going to do?" Kunle asked. "How do I fix this?" "We do it together," Mary said firmly. "We go back to that orphanage every day if we have to. We show Junior that you're serious. We prove to him through actions that you're not going anywhere this time. Ah, and if he never forgives me? Mary squeezed his hand. Then you keep trying anyway, because that's what real love does. It doesn't give up. The next morning, Kunle was back at the orphanage with breakfast for all the children. Fresh bread, eggs, fruit, juice. The children's faces lit up with joy, but Junior stayed in his room, refusing to come out. Kunle didn't push. He simply left a plate of food outside the boy's door with a note that said, "I'll be here tomorrow too." And the day after that, and the day after that, for as long as it takes. As he left the orphanage, he saw Junior watching him from the window again. This time, the boy didn't look away immediately. Their eyes held for a few seconds longer. It wasn't forgiveness, but maybe, just maybe, it was the smallest beginning of hope. Mama Dorcas was right. Healing would take time. But Kunle had finally learned the most important lesson of his life. Some things are worth waiting for. Some things are worth fighting for. And family, real family, is worth everything. If this story touched your heart, if Kunle's journey made you think about your own life and the people you've taken for granted, then I need you to do something right now. Don't just watch and leave. Hit that subscribe button, smash it. Because this story isn't over. There's so much more to tell. Will Junior ever forgive his father? Will Mama Dorcas fully heal from her pain? What will happen when Kunle faces the street boys who nearly killed her? And what other secrets from the past are waiting to be uncovered? Drop a comment right now telling us where you're watching from and what you think happens next. Your engagement keeps these powerful stories alive. These aren't just stories, they're lessons that could change someone's life today. Someone watching right now needs to hear this message. Don't let them miss it. Subscribe, comment, share this video with someone who needs to see it. Part 2 is coming, and you won't want to miss what happens next. The journey of redemption has only